Eugene. Thank you, Simon. Really enjoyed your presentation. I think that's going to be tremendously valuable. Your platform definitely differentiates itself from some of the others that we've seen, and so looking forward to talking with you further. All right, so I'm Michael Johnson, CEO here at Syllego. I'm here today with Kevin Lytle. I'm CEO. Kevin's CTO. We're Syllego. Over the next few slides, we're going to show you what we do, the problems we go after, and how we do it without tearing anything out, and exactly how this community can plug in. So, at any point, go ahead and feel free to interrupt us if you have any questions. And for some reason my PDF my Acrobat wasn't working, so I'm having to use this from Google Drive. All right, so Syllego is governed operational intelligence infrastructure, the orchestration, provenance, and decision support layer that makes the systems you already own operationally useful, auditable, and human governed. And so the three words here. I actually already went past the first slide. Sorry about that, guys. The three words that you see here under the name, gathered, governed, and proven. It is color coded, and you'll kind of see it sprinkled out throughout the slides, and so you can watch out for those because it helps kind of tell the story. And then one more thing before I move to the next slide is if you look in the upper right hand corner here, you'll see that this is marked not promoted, and so it was produced by one of our agents. That's our governance. That's our governance model, basically being applied to ourselves. An AI agent can produce a candidate, but nothing gets promoted without human authority. Okay, and so the same, of course, is the process that governs this. This presentation is the same process that governs what actually reaches our runtime that customers depend on. And so, who we are, Syllego comes from the Greek word to gather into coherent unity, to gather and align for a purpose. We take that naming pretty seriously. Meaning to us is infrastructure, and then the image that you see here on the right really represents our company. On the left there, that image, you see the different points of signal, sensor systems, feeds, applications, all operating independently. Those become a coherent lattice, connected, queryable, and aligned. And then you notice the arrow leaving the lattice. That's tied to the mission, because excuse me, sorry. The lattice isn't the goal. The mission is. So we're not another, sensor. We're not another dashboard. We're the connective layer between what you already own and what your mission requires. Kevin and I, we met at the world's largest industrial PC manufacturer in the world. We both come from software, but we met at this company. Kevin was a solutions architect supporting public safety and defense, and then I focused on artificial intelligence. They brought me in to help, integrate different software technologies that were being created with hardware systems that were going to market. And so, but because we both come from hardware and software, nothing you'll see today, really requires you to replace either. Okay. So DUS stands for Distributed Universal Sensing Technology. It's a term that Kevin coined while he was supporting Air Force Digital and SOCOM about 7 or 8 years ago. And so to us, everything is dust. Sensors, raw data, existing intelligence. Structurally, it's all the same to us. And so we gather it, or we Syllego it, and then we root our governance into it. And so that statement, it was like, everyone, hopefully you can remember this, all of it without rip and replace. Lots of companies integrate systems. What differentiates us is that nothing you already own has to be turned off. Your existing systems become the dust. We ingest information rather than replacing feeds, and we subscribe to what already exists. Then we orchestrate. That orchestration includes sensor fusion at the edge and AI agentic orchestration on the back end. And you'll see the diamond there. That represents the human authority. Notice that it sits between it directly in the workflow. Outputs, never bypass authority. From there comes a shared operating picture and ultimately action with a record. Who acted, what happened, when it happened, why it happened, and then understand, who's the authority. The problem, isn't a lack of technology. The problem isn't a lack of data. Organizations already have plenty of both. They have sensors, cameras, radios, dashboards, applications, field teams. Each system works, but they don't always work together well, especially when it's things are being contested or when a disaster hits or an emergency hits, and so they don't just work together. The one question we hear constantly is, we know the data exists. Where is it? Who has it? And how do I get access to it? The consequence is manual coordination. People become the integration layer between systems. And so that creates delays, stale information, and slower decisions. The situation becomes even worse, again, during the contested or degraded operating conditions. And so the solution, here you'll see a before and after. On the left are multiple systems with people underneath them, manually performing the integration. It could be phone calls, email. We've seen some pretty interesting sneaker netting. Even in these days, about a year and a half ago, there was a flood in Houston, and we kind of got to see firsthand how they were doing things. And one of the apps that sits inside of our platform actually helps to resolve that. They were actually screenshotting their spreadsheets to each other, and there was a lot of manual coordination. On the right, you see the exact same systems. Nothing has been replaced. Instead, they feed one governed operational picture. Human authority remains in control, and every decision leaves a provable record. We've seen, real, multi-organization disasters, as I was just mentioned, efforts coordinated through manual spreadsheets. And so the problem wasn't the technology. Again, the problem was this fragmentation.
So, Michael, I'm going to stop you there.
Yep.
Ed or Al, you had a question?
Yeah, I can summarize. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So for a long time, we have communication bridges that are used to integrate various technologies. For instance, they use it in chemical plants, manufacturing. What do you do that provides an advantage over what they've already done with communication bridges? How is your solution an improvement?
Mike, you want me to address that?
Yep.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'll say for you.
Yeah. So this is Kevin Lytle. Thank you for the question. The idea here is that there are a plethora of sensing platforms out there, right? And IoT is fairly flush with offerings. We look at that component as trusted as the customer considers that to be, and if they identify issues that system has, can we bridge that system and make it better? And in some cases, there's that sneaker net going on between IoT and operations. Someone has to bring a spreadsheet, or they have to ingest a spreadsheet of data that should be getting ingested automatically. To get that done, when I was at Honeywell, for us to do something that took me 15 minutes and $50 with a commercial third-party product, the SAP team spent $500,000 in 6 months to do. Because SAP wouldn't allow me to introduce third-party product to bridge between these two systems. And that's a real-world situation that I ran into multiple times. I was a workflow guy at Honeywell for 21 years. And my job was to go into companies and help improve workflows. And what we were constantly seeing were these really good systems, highly focused, really good secondary and tertiary systems that maybe operations was using or manufacturing was using, and there wasn't a good connection between them, and there was a lot of that disconnected state. And go ahead if you want. Yeah, but you want to clarify? Feel free.
Yes. So do you have workflow management in your interaction with these devices? So you can actually say, in context of this workflow, we're going to do these operations versus something else? So
yeah, I'll give you an example. One of the use cases that kind of got us over the hump in terms of focusing where we were going was we've been working here in Texas on some projects, funded projects and non-funded work. And we're involved with the disaster response community in Texas. And after the floods last year, we sat with the person who was Sneaker Net commander in the Emergency Operations Center, and that's what she called herself, right? And she was taking screenshots of spreadsheets from suppliers and from shelters and from other agencies and hand keying the data into the EOC system in a real-time environment where seconds mattered. And it took hours, in some cases 24 hours, for the data to be correlated. They were always behind the curve. And so Michael and I crafted a statement of work that we gave a name, and it basically takes a tool that was designed to help citizens do after-action images of the damage and turn it into a tool that is a real-time self-rescue tool that feeds data real-time into the EOC from the person's cell phone or their car if they're connected to the car, ties in shelters, volunteers, and the EOC systems without any new software stack having to be bought or modified, I should say, in the existing ecosystem. The problem is extremely difficult to make changes in that kind of environment because of liability. So having an external ability to bridge between all these systems and make it coherent together and to provide that data to someone to help them make decisions more quickly. So that's one example. Really good systems separated by firewalls, bridging those firewalls and pulling them together in a way that's non-threatening to anybody and allows these organizations to do better work. That's kind of a good example. I hope did that help?
Yes. So if you use some workflow management, depending where you're going to parse it out, that could be very critical in management of drones and battlefield management to say, looking at the sensor information, you can decide, make a decision support and say, well, apply this workflow or apply another workflow based on the sensor fusion that you're getting, and present that to the operator to say, this is the best way to do it based on the sensor information we know. Are you able to do something like that?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'd like to hear more about why you're having such good questions afterwards, because I'm very, very intrigued. We have partners who have really neat tech that needs to be commercialized. The new sensor modality that uses existing hardware, right? So it's an enhanced image, but the systems don't know what it is, especially DoD systems, right? So let's say DHS or the Air Force or the Army or the Navy wants to look at something, and we say, hey, here's a new and novel technology. How do we integrate it into the existing ecosystem? So we don't rip and replace. We simply get allowance to both subscribe to data that's relevant to us so we can make a better analysis of what we're seeing. So there's correlation done offline. Workflows are applied, then that data is packaged and sent back in a meaningful way based on the permissions of that system. So let's say it's a CJADC2 or some kind of counter UAS or a base defense or intelligent infrastructure vehicle to everything system in a city. There's commercial, there's secret, there's all kinds of stuff that we need to bridge. And so we can do that, and then the workflows are worked out with the partner, right? Who the customers and then the partners who are providing support. So they actually provide us what that workflow needs to be. We just realize that, apply governance to it, and ensure that everything we're doing is governed according to those workflows and the rules that we have to follow. And when we publish in that, we have to make sure that our workflows ensure that we remain a trusted source. Otherwise, we get busted. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll give you one example. Say the Hunt for Red October, where you have an engineer listening to acoustic signals inside a submarine to look for the enemy activities. How does your
Al.
system work? Okay,
Al,
stop.
watch what you say.
Yeah, I'll answer that question with something that we did.
Okay.
And it was we did before Syllego was started. One of the reasons that Syllego was started. So we went to a certain entity up in Groton, Connecticut, and said, "Hey, can we listen to noises on the boat?" And by noise, I mean all signal, without tapping into the secure network on that vehicle, but provide us with output, governed output. And then we look at that and we say, oh, I think pump A is going to fail. Do I have the part on the boat? Do I have the technician with the experience? If the answer is yes to both of those, get it into the workflow. If the answer is no to either, where's the part and where's the person with experience? Is it on the aircraft carrier? Is it on the support ship? Is it back in the base in Virginia? And I'm over in, the South China Sea. How do I get those? How do I fix that problem? And how do I proactively predict an outcome? And so whether that's a detection system for a threat externally, I'm looking at all the sensors. I'm adding maybe some sensing of my own. And I'm saying, what else is there that I can pull in that's not currently used because these systems are 20, 30, 40 years old and it's difficult to ingest new stuff? Can I pull in new relevance with permissions? And how do I inject that? And that's the collaboration between existing system, governed workflows that exist, new governed workflows that comply with policy and pull data from any source that's available to us to enhance that situational awareness. We're not the sensor fusion part necessarily. We can be. We're not the sensor. That we don't do any sensor. We have partners that do that. We use the sensors that exist. We will inject new sensors. That's where a forum like this is phenomenal. And that software we just saw a few minutes ago is so helpful. Is if you've got a problem that you're targeting, let's collaborate together and prove the value of this platform. Because I think what you saw today in the first call, what you see now, and the questions you're asking is proof that this better together play is right here in front of us. Did I do well, Eugene? Am I on target?
Yeah, no, you are, and I'm gonna say too that I have the inside track on what both of you are doing, and you're both working with the same third party entity. So that's why you see the synergies.
Yeah, let's pull that together. And I want to say to everybody else who's on the call or anybody else who's on the call who has that kind of question, we're an open book. We want to solve problems. We want to help people, right? We have a stack. We don't want to hurt other people. We want to do good work in the environment you're in and bring value beyond what you're doing, right? Can we pull more stuff in to make us more sticky and more valuable to that entity so we can grow? We don't need to kill eat the elephant in one bite. Let's go win well, and then let's grow. So, Mike, I don't want to keep going because I'm getting all excited. Mike, you take over.
Okay, so thank you, Kevin. And that's why I partner with Kevin, because I can't go into the weeds like he does. And also I don't have the history he does. So, what we do really comes down to these three verbs: unify. We create one shared operational picture using the systems you already operate. I kind of feel silly going through all this now. If you already have a common operating picture, that's fine. We don't replace it. We just want to make it more meaningful. Orchestrate, we coordinate people, technology, and processes, not just machines. And then govern. Every recommendation, every action remains accountable, traceable, and under the proper authority. And so you see faster, understand better, act sooner, and then stay in control. Uh-oh. Oh, come on. That's our governance side. I may just take that as a sign, because that is one of the more sensitive elements of what is the core of what we do. But you guys can get a spread. You'll get it later. Let me try to speak to it here. And so governing the AI itself. We've been spending a lot of time breaking agents lately. It seems that if you want your agents to work and you want agents that you can control and to do what you actually want them to do, you have to break them a lot, and you need governance being applied in order to do that. And there's multiple layers of governance even when it comes to AI agents. But we're talking about bounded autonomy. Agents operate only within explicitly granted limits. No self-authorization. An agent can't decide on its own to act. Right. Human authorization. Consequential actions require a human decision. Meaning preservation. So governed meaning is held across agents and tools and outputs, and then enforced policy and hold. And so, when authority or evidence is unresolved, the system holds. It never acts on ambiguity. And then evidence and lineage. So every action recorded with its origin, basis, and authority. And so, the enforcement boundary that we've demonstrated, in a working, reference implementation, the live runtime integration and independent validation are the current work. And right now, what we're having to do is we're getting put on a larger system to be able to handle some of the workloads that we're putting through it. And I can talk a little bit more about that later, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. So StrataSense. See the link right there real quick. So StrataSense is a Syllego company. It's where a lot of all of this is really getting proven right now. Think of it as a mission cockpit simulator. One interface supporting the human in the loop from the sensor array through large scale computing, mission workflows, personnel, response coordination, operational awareness. Everything is audible by design. And so, you'll notice that this is a very simple flow here, but, gathered becomes governed. What's governed becomes proven, and then what's proven flows back, in through the governance. And so nothing graduates beyond the governance. And so anything that proves itself still comes back under the authority before it reaches a mission. So that applies equally to our own capabilities and those developed by our partners. Any questions?
No, I really like that graphic, Michael.
Oh, thank you. It's probably it's hard for me to be simple, especially with my first degree and everything. But thank you. And so, truly modular. When we say modular, we mean structurally modular. Every component participates only when it's needed, and so there's no single vendor dependency, including us. Hardware is optional. You can use, reference designs, partner hardware, or, what you already own. Contested operating conditions are assumed from the beginning. The system is designed to operate locally with or without cloud connectivity and synchronize when communications return. And so if your architecture depends entirely on continuous cloud connectivity, then, what happens when that cloud disappears? And another thing, and I don't see it here. I don't know if I'm going to have it later, but I think I wanted to also say with or without power. Oh, there it is. Yeah, with or without power. We actually, when we got into the Texas V2X project that we won with the partner, the way that we got into that opportunity was pitching the concept of you need to be able to have your foundational intelligence and ubiquitous coverage with or without cloud or with or without power. You need to, you in certain situations, in a lot of these situations, you need to know, is there a person? How many? Is there a vehicle? How many? Is there an animal? How many? And in those roads where, there's no infrastructure, being able to have a device that can warn you, if there's like a deer that's about to come jump in front of your car, it can see that there's deer in the area. Or you can consider, there's 90 miles of roadway between Texas and California that is completely uncovered. even law enforcement out there is at risk, and they know it. But who's going to put in billions of dollars of infrastructure to save 1 or 2, 3 lives a year? But if your car gets broken down, you're going to have to depend on the kindness of strangers to help you. And so it was kind of that pitch. And we had a little edge dust device that we produce that's operating in our lab right now. But that's actually what got us into that opportunity. I'm gonna move on to the next here. So this is kind of to the point of how do you say rip and doing it with or without rip and replace. So we began with a bounded pilot. One workflow. Not an enterprise migration. It runs against your, whatever your actual operational data is while your current systems continue to operate unchanged. Then the pilot eventually becomes a validation engine. And so you gain evidence using your own environment before committing to, anything larger. And then you can expand capability, by capability based upon, the trust that you build from proving the capability. A lot of capabilities in that statement. No redesign, no re-architecture, land, prove, expand. Any questions there? Okay. Oh man, you're kidding me. This is the domain focus slide. So I can just tell you that, this approach, land, land, prove, and then expand. It's relevant across many mission areas, as I'm sure you can imagine. So emergency management, public safety, transportation, critical infrastructure, homeland security, defense operations, different mission spaces, the same architectural problem, many organizations, many systems, but no monolithic platform. And so as you look at, the examples that you can't see here, it's the question, isn't, does your domain appear here? It's more of, does this architecture fit your mission? And so that's exactly the conversation that I think we're kind of here having already. And then there's our asks. And so, there are 4 ways I think this community can help. We kind of went through this with Eugene. And so, first it's partners. We're looking for, more component providers, sensing capabilities, communication providers, integration providers, and sustainment capabilities. So, if you recognize you or someone's technology that you somewhere in the especially the blue portions that we are presenting, we love to talk about it. And see if it fits into kind of our governed model, our ecosystem model. And then second is funding. It's interesting because a lot of our advisors right now that we actually have our core GUI and mission cockpit simulator, and it's up and running, and we've got it built out. Pretty significantly, we're kind of past the seed stage. They're telling us to go ahead and go after Series A, and so we are working on that. We have a few investors that we're engaged with, and the investment really, it accelerates the infrastructure, the engineering, and more of the pilot readiness. The third is introductions, connections to federal, state, and local organizations to move us faster than anything else. I mean, at this stage for us, it's getting to market share, right? It's a market share play now. And so finally, this is the champions, mission aligned advisors who believe in what we're building and are willing to help open doors for us. You'll see we're looking for deferred commission believers, who are invested in the outcome. And the last thing I'll say before going on here, you can look online, you can see, some of our successes. We did win. We are, actually co-authored for the V2X project with Texas Transportation Institute under the Texas A&M system, the Federal Highway Administration. It was their solicitation. I was the only other individual who co-authored that proposal with another individual at the Transportation Institute. We won that. That was a $19 million grant. Of course, we didn't get all that money, but there was a number of people that were a part of that project. There's that, and if you look up Patero and Syllego, you'll probably see some articles there as well. But today, we're working with a very large. It's a U.S. based prime who is going to enable us to scale significantly. They have a hardware stack that they are a company that they're partnering with. It's an edge infrastructure. It's got it's edge data center pods, small, medium, large kind of thing. It's got the point-to-point communications, all of it's NIST certified, the end-to-end, post-quantum encryption, all of that good stuff. And they're essentially, packaging us up and the partner technologies that we have with us as line items in their solution. And they're going to, state to state and saying, hey, we'll put this in for you. If you don't need the hardware, that's fine, but we have these solutions and we can provide it to you. All of this as a service. And I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of what they're going after is emergency management and disaster response, but there's also a lot of interest in the counter UAS. So there is a counter UAS solution that's built that they're wanting to leverage us to help enhance, and also they kind of want to they want us to build that out because right now what they've been doing isn't working as well as they want, but we're scheduled to be actually installed in 3 states by the end of August, and then they are projecting potentially 30 states by the end of by next year. Was the last thing. Was the last there? Any questions there? Was the last.
So you had ARI listed.
Was the last.
So I do have connections with ARI.
Was the last.
Now you have DARPA pathways. There's several.
Was the last
communities that DARPA or that ARI supports.
Was the last
aware of that?
Yeah, I am, because you were telling us, but we've also seen we've seen some.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we're always open to being corrected, because it's really easy with so many acronyms to group things or to say it wrong, and someone says that's not what they do. Well, I know, we don't know. There's just too many to know.
I also, sorry, I forgot to mention this a second ago. We're actually currently being brought into and integrated. This prime I'm telling you about, in this hardware, this infrastructure company, they're already installed at an Air Force base on the East Coast, and so we're currently we're clearing the paperwork right now to get us in there. So that's something else.
And that's a generalized base oriented with defense component, right? It's not an operational combat component, but think of it: smart city, smart base, safe base. So there was opportunities for us to pull stuff in. We don't know what those opportunities are yet. There's a specific mission that we're going in on, but there may be opportunities to bring people in.
Yeah, and while we are definitely a commercialization pathway for partners, we a lot of the partners that we lean on, they're TRL 6, up to 9, and especially the ones that are critical that we depend on, a lot. They are TRL 9 technologies.
And then I think Al he's got a couple of things in the chat.
Was the last.
I don't know, how do you do the integration and test case validation?
Was the last.
Yeah.
Was the last.
I don't know if you can get into that here or not.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's a lot of it depends, especially in the spaces we're in. Those procedures are documented.
Was the last.
We have to follow those procedures.
Was the last. Was
the
last.
The only thing we can do is if we see an opportunity to improve the methodology, we'll inject it. But like in a public safety or in a defense space, there's a specific structure that we have to comply with. We're not coming in and saying, here's how we're going to do it. They're saying, here's how we will do it. Approvals, testing, each phase is kind of something we have to comply with, or at least negotiate up front. For us, it's, it's something that's one of those conversations where there's so many ways we can go. It could be a whole call into its own.
Was the last. Yeah. And we, happy to get an NDA with, any of you folks here. I mean, we know, we're already actually partnered with some of the folks that are on here right now. Mm-hmm. Good to see you, David, Jeffrey, and A. Larson. I feel like I know you.
DSSI Inc. We talked to them before.
Okay.
Sorry, DSS Inc. We talked to those. We talked to you guys maybe almost like a year and a half ago, I think.
Was the last.
Yes, you did talk to me with Graham on the Monday night events that they have there.
Yeah, we should. So I replied and copied Mike on the email. We should chat.
Okay,
awesome.
That's that next question, Al. Was that for them as well?
Yeah.
We've already, what I have is a small consulting firm. I'm always interested in teaming up with people to work on opportunities. So,
and would love to meet with any of you guys. We can show you what we're working with. So far, everyone who's seen it is very impressed, and they want to be a part of it. It's very comprehensive.
Yeah, you can reach out to me if you need contact information. The presentation will go up on our document repository and on AWS. So if you need a link to that, it's in the invitation, but you can also reach out to me. I can send that link. If you want copies of the transcripts or the recording, you can reach out as well, and I can provide those. The recording will go up on the document repository and be available there. And once it's edited, it'll be split into 2 recordings, and those will be posted on the YouTube channel as always.
Thanks.
So if you want information, please put your email in the chat or shoot me an email. And with that, Simon, Michael, Kevin, do you have anything?
No, I just want to say thanks for bringing Simon and that tech stack on first, because that was properly impressive. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it is, and and Simon's a great partner to have. So really looking forward to. We've been talking since, like Simon said, I think February, April timeframe, and it was only about a month ago that we came to terms on our relationship. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us.
Yeah, good news is it's not foundational work in terms of the tool.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dan.